Hello and welcome back to the Measure Pod. I'm Dara. I'm joined by Matthew. Hey Matthew, how you doing?
Hello. I've got one of those newfangled colds everyone's raving about, so I might sound a bit gruff, but
Like a
but other
like
than
some
that,
kind
I'm
of
all right.
hipster cold, is
Yeah,
it?
I've got one of the
Hipster bug.
one of those head colds that are all the rage. How are you?
I'm all right. I just have to confess on your behalf because when we were talking before I hit the record button, you didn't sound that ill, and then I hit record and you're like, "Hello everybody, I'm not doing so well today."
I'm trying to call in sick to the podcast.
Yeah,
The listeners being the boss.
yeah, yeah. I don't think they're buying it.
No, all right, I'll carry on then.
You are genuinely ill, and I do have sympathy for you. Not a lot, but a little bit. Just a reasonable
That's
amount. I'm okay. I'm slightly shocked and disappointed because it rained yesterday, and I'm in Spain now. In case I haven't mentioned that before, and
People who think you're in England will be like, and
doesn't it rain every day? Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
a bit strange. This kind of moisture was falling out of the sky, and I was quite confused. It took me a while to figure out what it might be.
People running around outside screaming,
Yeah.
pointing at the sky.
Yeah. Somebody has angered the gods, and it rained a little bit. But no, I'm good. I am good and ready to dive into some exciting. It just feels like just things are changing all the time. We're going to have to start doing a daily podcast, I think. Maybe an hourly one.
Yeah, there is a lot. There is a lot this week. I keep thinking that maybe there'll be a break in the relentlessness of releases, but this one is a bumper one this week.
We could just do something really random that week. If there's no news, we could just, I don't know,
Make it up.
speak to each other in strange languages or something.
Yeah, we could try that. See our numbers, how it does.
Yeah. Or talk about snooker. We've still got to do the snooker episode.
Yeah, that's a deep cut.
Yeah.
For anyone who remembers that from... I don't know how many we've been doing now since we took over. I don't know what episode we're on.
Well, we should count
Should be
them
10
in
or so.
how many episodes since the last mention of snooker. That's how that should be the official way of
Yeah.
counting them. So it's got to be a few at least.
Just a few.
Yeah.
A few. We'll keep it in the back burner.
Yeah. So probably unsurprisingly, all of our news is AI related. Shocker.
Yeah. Yeah, we have... Well, it is all AI related, but we do have some AI stuff that is related to data engineering and marketing analytics stuff as well. So fear not.
Well, it all is in a roundabout way, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
everything's connected to everything.
Yeah, very philosophical.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, right. So where do you want to start? Because there's a few. Yeah, there's some biggies. Sonnet 4.5, ChatGPT shopping search. It's just where do we start?
Yeah, maybe 4.5 as that's the first one you said, and I can't remember anything you said after that.
Yeah, and I think it's probably the first one. Maybe it isn't actually. I'm thinking is it in chronological order? But you know, I'm not even going to try and check that. Or let's just go with.
No.
Let's just go.
Well,
with it.
I don't know actually. Sonnet. I know it came out on the 29th, so we're recording this on the 30th. Sorry to break the magic for everyone of September, but the Sonnet came out yesterday, our time, and it claims to be. So it's the new sort of frontier model from Claude. I'm getting a bit confused by
Tell me about it.
the sort of Sonnet or Opus or Haiku, but they seem to be releasing like 4.5 Sonnet, which is the middle model, which implies that there is an Opus to come for 4.5, which will be bigger and better. I don't know. But anyway, it claims to be the best model now. They're putting that claim out there. Best model for coding
in the world.
Yeah. They aren't making any universal claims, which I think is smart.
Keeping it quite narrow to the Earth planet. Yeah.
To the Earth. Yeah,
I do have to.
but yeah,
I'm not even going to let you get past that without criticizing this statement. It's like you know when you see those like, and they're usually close to service stations for some bizarre reason, but they'll be like a restaurant. It might be an Indian restaurant or a kind of cafe, and it'll say something like the best cafe in the UK, and it's like voted by themselves. And whenever you see that, you always think, so it's not a good cafe, or it's not a good Indian restaurant, or it's not a good Italian.
Coffee shops are particularly guilty of this. I think as
everywhere
well.
does the best coffee in the UK, the world, the Milky Way, whatever, and it's always a lie.
True. They have released some charts, some empirical data.
Did they use?
But it's getting.
But did they use Claude to make it up?
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? It's getting harder and harder to. I think a lot of the tests that most of these models run through, you do wonder how much they've kind of got the model good at taking those tests and answering those questions. And I know there's some like independent companies spinning up that do the testing for them now, and critique the models in some way. So I don't know. I mean, I have played with it. It came out everywhere, API. That was one refreshing thing about it. It
was everywhere.
Was announced yesterday, and it was available everywhere.
Nice.
In Claude Code, in the API, in Brian, the pinnacle of
the one and only
API LLMs.
Yeah, I think I was using it without even realizing it before I saw the announcement. I think something in my brain said, hang on, 4.5. And then I saw the announcement. I was like, okay.
Yeah, it clicked over to be the default everywhere as well. Yeah. But it claims to be best at coding, agentic modeling, just
everything,
the best
just
across the board.
Everything.
Yeah, seems to be that there were some other sort of statements that sound very alarming, but
I love this
in a good way, I suppose.
Yeah,
let me get the exact wording.
You got to read out the actual quote word for word. I love this.
Claude's improved capabilities and our extensive safety training have allowed us to substantially improve the model's behavior, reducing concerning behaviors like sycophancy, deception, power seeking, and the tendency to encourage delusional thinking. Cool.
They have to release a version where you can turn all of that on. That's the one I want. That's the one I want to use.
How far it can go.
Yeah. But the fact
that the argument of doing the Olympics, but just letting everyone take steroids and see how high can we go.
The enhanced games. yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I just think this is brilliant, and it's like, and I love the way they just like that's just like a matter of fact statement. It's like, it's also like far less significantly evil, and it doesn't have global domination as part of its mission statements anymore. Success, give us a big hooray.
I know it feels like it's. I wonder if they've been building this a little bit with that autopilot thing we were talking about the other week, because they do call out prompt injection and other things as well. Which all was stuff they were worried about with their Claude Pilot, Claude Pilot, or whatever it was going to be. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I heard as well. It reminded me of another kind of blasé statement, and this was from, I forget his name now, not Dario or Daria, the other co-founder. Maybe there's more than two. Showing how I'm insulting them. I'm now insulting the entire leadership team of Anthropic, but one of the co-founders. I was listening to him on a podcast, and he just casually threw out at one point, because we were testing it in a safe environment, and we managed to get it to stop being so. And I'm not going to get the words quite right. I don't have the quote to hand, but it was basically they were trying to prevent it from becoming power hungry. So a bit like in the quote you read out, and the other one was trying to build in the ability to disable it being shut down. So it's literally Terminator. Like he's literally describing them trying to not make it Terminator, the plot of Terminator, and he just threw this out as if it was like just testing that your washing machine was working or something.
Yeah. I read a book, The Coming Wave. It's one of the only books I've ever read, but it was by the guy who now, ironically, I think he's like CEO of Microsoft's AI or something, by Mustafa Suleyman. And they talk about all that in there. Like the big worry with them is that they set goals for these AIs, and then it solely focuses on that goal, and it does everything in its power to get to that goal. And being turned off or shut down is
against that.
Is against that goal. And the ultimate worry is that it goes and goes and goes, and it's like, right, well, I need to make this app more efficient. To do that, I need to free up some processing power. So let me just kill off everyone in Norwich. I'll just murder everyone in Norwich. Use their trees and corpses for fuel for my data centers. Sorry, Norwich. I don't know why you came to my head first.
This is a public service announcement, so if you live in Norwich, you've been warned.
But it's all.
There's a hint of terror with all of this stuff, really, isn't there?
Yeah,
maybe more than a hint.
There is.
Anyway, I was going to say this is me. I tend to drag it into the, AI is going to murder us all. So let's swerve back out of that. So before we finish though with Sonnet 4.5, there was a couple of bits because you shared with me earlier some of the updates that were included, and one that looked particularly interesting to me because I probably keep making it make mistakes, but there's now like a rewind function
in Claude Code.
In Claude Code, Yeah. But this is part of,
Yeah.
am I mixing things up? That is part of the 4.5.
So 4.5 is now the default model in Claude Code, but then Claude Code has had, the one I shared with you earlier was the release notes for Claude Code. So like Claude Code has added in, the ability to like say /rewind and like step back and it'll just undo the changes that's been happening, because it can, run away with itself and just destroy things. You're like, oh crap, I need to go back, and it's not been very good at doing that. Yeah. Yeah. And when you've got like maybe more people who are vibe coding who aren't used to say Git and always backing up and working in small sort of feature branches and things, it can be really annoying for people. So yeah, there's a few updates in there that looks interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Another one just quickly on that I saw that actually could be quite handy as well as the /usage one, which gives you I haven't tried this. I don't know if it tells you. The thing I'm hoping it does is tells you where you are within the 5-hour window, because that's really annoying when it just tells you you're approaching it and then suddenly you hit it and then you have to just wait and you didn't know that you were nearly there. And I know there are some like, plugin probably isn't the right word, but I know there is something you can install to monitor that. But it would be nice if you could do that within Claude Code itself, just to see where you're at within that 5-hour window.
Yeah, I know there was a usage thing ages ago when I was on like the API, when I was draining from an API pot, and you could kind of see, you could see what the cost of that session was so far. Yeah. But yeah, nothing. I'm also interested because I think it was running on, the default was like 4.10 versus something previously, I think. And now the default's Sonnet, but it would step down from 4.1 after a certain amount that said you've gone over your usage for that. So I don't know if 4.5 Sonnet is cheaper, so it might stay for longer and you might get that more powerful model for longer periods. I'm not hammered it enough yet. I think I was doing a bit of coding with it this morning and I didn't get like yellow warning saying it stepped down to a different model. So maybe worth keeping an eye on.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay. What else we got?
I suppose the other big one was OpenAI releasing the e-commerce, so purchases within ChatGPT. And we talked about this ages ago. We
knew it was coming, didn't we?
Yeah, we knew it was coming. We just weren't sure. At the time, I think we were asking questions of like, is it going to surface in the chat and then send you off to a pay window at the retailer or whatever? But no, it seems as though the entire pay journey happens within ChatGPT, and subsequent journeys like after purchase events all come from the retailer, but the purchase journey itself happens in ChatGPT. Etsy, I think, are fully on board and integrated.
eBay, I think, as well.
eBay. Shopify is coming. It's not out yet, but it's pretty much going to be here very, very soon. And they've released this. What was it called?
Maybe not eBay, actually. That might have been a bit salty. Maybe it was
we hadn't had any salt yet.
Yeah, Etsy, Shopify, and possibly eBay, but maybe not.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I thought you were reading that then. But so the whole journey happens in there. It's called they're calling it like the Agentic Commerce Protocol, ACP. Everyone needs their own protocol. Anthropic did MCP. Google's got A2A, agent to agent, and then now OpenAI's like, we want one. So they've got Agentic Commerce Protocol.
Yeah. Everyone's going to have an acronym.
Yeah. And they've released a lot of technical documentation about how everybody can integrate with this ACP, which to me, I don't know, feels like everyone has to, almost.
I think so. Yeah. You either do this or you're going to be massively left. Well, okay. So I guess it depends, because we are in a bubble, aren't we? And there probably are still good old-fashioned folks who like to go on good old-fashioned websites.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably people who don't even want to go online and want to go into an actual physical bricks and mortar store. I mean, there's probably a couple of them left. But yeah, I think for most businesses, they're going to have to get on board with this, I think, or they're going to get left behind.
Yeah, and it raises interesting questions about what the format of your like product data is on your sites. I saw some posts on LinkedIn earlier where people were sort of theorizing, having looked at the technical documentation, that it wasn't necessarily going to be about keywords and things. It was going to be about data density and having the right words that the LLM knows to string together to make the connection to your product. It's a kind of completely different paradigm to how we've been doing it for the past, 20 years.
Yeah, there was some other stuff as well. I've got about 400,000 tabs open, so I won't be able to find it. But there was something on the announcement page about how it will sort them, and it even included things like whether you're the original manufacturer or a reseller. So it's quite
Right.
quite different. So it's going to it's going to look at, I guess, price and proximity to the user, and whether you're a reseller, or maybe whether you specialize in that product as well, or whether you sell a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's going to be quite contextual, I guess, as opposed to maybe what now seems like a slightly more old-fashioned way with the kind of search index approach. And they did say as well that you don't get a benefit because the instant e-commerce or instant checkout, I think they call it, that's optional, and you can be listed in the results without having the instant checkout. I'll get it right eventually. And it says that you don't get a benefit. So if you go for the full instant checkout, that doesn't give you a bump in the ranking order, apparently.
Is it like a cost? I couldn't see anything scanning it earlier, but are they taking a slice of sales through the platform?
Yeah, I didn't see a percentage, but they say, I think the wording is something like, we take a small fee. But if what I thought was interesting is if the item is returned, the merchant gets that fee, that commission back.
Interesting.
So my brain's already going to like scamming ChatGPT by saying, "Oh yeah, we've had 1,000 returns this month. You owe me money."
Yeah, I wonder if it just gets to that Amazon kind of thing where they're like, well, the customer's happier if they can just keep returning things over and over again, and we balance the books. Doesn't matter. Yeah, interesting. And I think they said I did see a statement somewhere else in the technical documentation where it was like, they will not allow you to sort of sign them up to marketing emails and things as part of that journey within ChatGPT. Like they'll put a block on that. So it seems like it's just the purchase, not like newsletters about that after the fact.
I've got to say, I'm actually genuinely quite excited as a customer about this. I'm looking forward to using it, because it is, you're probably the same, and most people probably are, you're looking for something, you get analysis paralysis, which will probably still happen with this, but you end up with loads of tabs open. You're on various different sites. You're trying to price match. You're trying to compare shipping times and all the rest of it. And how do you do that when you've got all these different websites open? So more recently, you'd probably do some of that research through ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, but then you'd still have to go back to those individual sites to do the purchase. So just to be able to do that whole end to end from research through to decision and then purchase, all through.
Yeah.
Just a shame can I say this? It's a shame it's ChatGPT and not Claude. Am I allowed to say that on air? Can we now just try and take down yet another giant company?
Well, as long as my motto is as long as it's not Meta, but
that's true.
I can imagine
that's definitely
coming
true.
with something.
Yeah, I'll add in it. That's my personal preference. That's what I'll say. My personal preference would be to use Claude.
I think this would be genuinely good, and I'm going to say it out loud on a podcast.
Is it about?
I've always said no. We've said lots of things that we think could be good ideas and never done them, and I've not had any repercussions for it. But still, it'd be interesting to put together like a bit of a scorecard between them, and and like have sort of metrics of like what's good, what's been really good for like marketing analytics, data engineering, who's doing well with like releasing something quickly after they talk about it. Google would be marked down quite a bit for that, but like Sonnet, it's here. But then I don't think OpenAI, I don't think this e-commerce thing was available when I was trying to see if I could get it to work in ChatGPT today. I didn't see it happening.
I think it's US only at the moment.
Doubt. See, Mark, minus points.
Yeah, definitely.
And then we'll just judge. Our favorite, the MeasurePod favorite, will be whatever's scoring highest on our ongoing AI scorecard.
Yeah, and we'll use each one to mark the others. So we'll use Gemini to mark ChatGPT and Claude and
impartial.
Yeah. No, I like it. I think it's a good idea. It's another good idea we won't do, and there'll be no repercussions.
I promise to do it.
Oh, okay. No, it would be fun.
Maybe
it would be good, and it'll probably change. I think that's the thing, isn't it?
They'll have to keep going.
It'll keep one release, one will be ahead, and the next release, the other one or another one will be ahead. It's going to chop and change, isn't it?
Yeah,
but exciting. I am. Yeah, I've got to say, as an end user, I'm looking forward to using this one. But I think it is going to be making a lot of e-commerce site owners anxious now.
Yes,
because there's going to be a frantic push to, right, well, how do I firstly just get myself listed in there, but secondly, how do I make sure I'm well optimized for that? So
And Google's is on the way, right? They announced
Has to be.
ages ago they were doing some sort of AI shopping assistant thing.
Yeah.
So you think that's got to be on its way soon.
And especially now this has been announced, like even if it's not
Yeah.
fully baked, they're going to have to, because OpenAI have the jump on this now, don't they? So
Yeah, feels like they're next in the queue, doesn't it, Google?
yeah.
OpenAI went with GPT-5 and then they've done this, and then Sonnet's come out with Claude's come out with 4.5. Feels like it's Google's turn for something big. Speaking of Google, beautiful.
We need sound effects. This is where we need sound effects. That there needs to be some kind of like clap for a perfect segue.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
and
an audience.
and the crunching of a salt grinder when somebody says something dubious. Chrome DevTools MCP came out, or was sort of, it started to do the rounds much more than I don't know if it came out recently or if it's just started to get some more public attention. But essentially, it is an MCP that can interact with the DevTools within Chrome. So a lot of people are seeing a lot of utility with it in marketing analytics and marketing technology and stuff, because it can, in theory, go and check data layers, work through journeys and collect data layer information as it goes through those things, look at like all the network requests and what's happening with various information coming in and out of sites and things like that. There's a lot, it seems like a lot of power and utility in it. And I know that we've got a few people experimenting with it internally. It's similar, but apparently better than to the Playwright MCP. So we have our internal Brian chatbot that we've been stuffing a lot of MCPs in, so people can make things. We've got like the Google Analytics 4 MCP in there, the BigQuery, the GTM MCP, and then we've added in Playwright, and that can go off and help us do consent audits and things like that. But this apparently has more utility, a bit nicer, a bit quicker, etc., etc.
Yeah, and Playwright, our avid listeners might remember Gunnar Grease used Playwright as part of his setup to test the GA4 and Stape MCPs. So that's where I heard of it and thought it would be a good thing for this. But Chrome DevTools, I guess, is good. On one hand, is naturally going to be better because it is using the built-in kind of Chrome functionality, for want of a better way of putting it.
Yeah, the DevTools themselves, yeah. And apparently you can run it in like a headful mode, so you can see what it's doing and help guide it a bit more, rather than completely headless and just letting it run itself.
Yeah, is that optional? Do you know? Because there might be cases where you don't necessarily want that. Do you know if you can kind of turn that on and off?
I think so. One of the other interesting things about it is I've been using it when developing Brian himself to help me debug. So normally when I'm in Claude Code, I'll be maybe relaying console logs back in there and getting it to sort of be that translation layer. But now it can just go off with the MCP in Claude Code and just look at the logs, the network requests, the speed of the load times, take snapshots of the application, and it kind of adds a whole new layer of debugging and self-regulation to Claude Code, which is interesting. But that's all been running headless when I've been doing it. So I assume there is an option.
Yeah, and I think that's something quite appealing as well. But I don't know, maybe you can do that in Playwright as well. I'm not sure, but the kind of local testing if you're building web
potentially
apps, not having to go in and open up the console every time and copy and paste it back into Claude Code. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it's a bit tedious when you have to keep doing that when you're trying to debug something.
Yeah, it came up. We were having a conversation in a like little innovation meeting that we have at Measure Lab from time to time, and we were talking about the different use cases of these things, and it felt like the headful version of these things could be really useful because no site is really the same. Nothing's ever straightforward. There's not one same journey on e-commerce sites or whatever other sites that may be out there. So having the human in the loop and almost augmenting them with the tooling is one approach. But then you've also may have some very cookie cutter processes that you just know are going to be the same every time. So one example is sort of reviewing the cookie banner, checking it fits with a lot of GDPR guidelines, that the accept all and reject alls there, et cetera, That could be done in a headless mode and just be an agent that's completely automating that process. So it's like playing it by ear of which version is best and the best approach. The final thing I want to talk about was the data engineer agent in BigQuery, which we talked about absolutely. I think it might have been our first episode.
7 or 8 years ago, I think.
7 or 8 years ago. And this was essentially, it's like Google Pipelines. For those who don't know what Google Pipelines are, it's a flow of you can connect this data to this data, and it build sort of data form SQLX type files in the background, so you can build out pipelines of get data from here with a Python script and then transform it and ultimately get it into reporting tables, etc. Anyway, they built an agent on top of that. We saw it ages ago at Next 25. Well, saw it. We weren't in Vegas, but we saw it online at Next 25. It's kind of been an underpinning. This has been an underpinning for most of our conversations for pretty much the rest of the time, because what we saw was very impressive, but it is very autonomous. It just goes off and starts looking at this data, grabbing this data over here, joining that together, and blah, blah, blah. So we were, a bit like, well, what's the guardrails there? What happens if it just goes off and does something wild and costs a fortune? That has arrived, and we've played a little bit with it, not massively. It's in pre-general offering preview at the minute, and we've had mixed results. Go big with it and ask it to do something really massive straight off the bat. It struggles and maybe just doesn't complete, which I get. If you're more pointed with it and specific with it, it's pretty powerful. It's able to just sort of understand the context of your project, grab this table from over here, this table, join them, pull them through, select the right columns, and ultimately get down to what you're trying to do.
So you could probably do the big thing if you actually broke it down from the off, rather than just saying, go do a big thing.
Don't be lazy like me.
Yeah.
Transform it.
Yeah.
What? Transform what?
Just come on, figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. You should know what I want. So and obviously this is pre-general availability, so it's not the whatever realized version that eventually hits all of the projects, everyone's projects down the line. At the minute, I believe you just pay for the processing costs rather than any Gemini usage, but I imagine in any pre-realized version, it would
that's going to change.
For, yeah. But it's interesting. It all sits on top of Dataform by the looks of things. Creates SQLX files and things like that. So it's but I suppose pipelines does. But yeah.
Oh, that was a sneaky little bit of news that almost didn't make it in. Fivetran looking to buy DBT.
Oh yeah.
I mean that is the news. Hasn't happened. They're looking to do it, but that's quite a big. I mean, Fivetran have just been making huge moves lately, so this would be a really big one, because I think they were valued at 4 billion recently or something. DBT.
I think I don't know if it was like whatever offering that Fivetran are putting in there and making them valued at
maybe
at that amount. But yeah, it's interesting that they are making all these moves. I don't know. I think we said before that a lot of these that were just in the bucket of ETL tools are making moves to sort of expand things out a bit. And I don't know if they anticipate they're just moving data from point A to point B with the augmentation of people and AI is not a big enough piece of the data puzzle. I don't know. Or maybe they just want to go bigger and own everything. But
maybe. We shall see.
It's going to be interesting. Will be interesting that the sort of removal of that air of independence that DBT has.
Yeah.
Because Dataform obviously got bought by Google and is very much in Google. DBT is no longer its own independent
Well, it
entity.
won't be if they get...
maybe. Allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah. But you're right. If the sale goes ahead, then they lose that kind of USP, don't they?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, our a lot of our news today probably leads quite nicely into our guest discussion. So we have Mark Edmondson joining us today. Mark's a really, really bright guy and seems to have an amazing work ethic, which I think he's now multiplied using the power of AI. But kind of similar journey to us, started out in kind of digital marketing and then into analytics. And now he's pretty much gone kind of headfirst into GenAI, DevOps, and he's building tools, including Tagassistant.ai, which I believe he's building with Gunnar, who was a previous guest on the show. But yeah, it was a really interesting conversation. Didn't just cover the technical aspects, but a bit like we have on some of the recent episodes, it also got a little bit kind of broader, and we touched on some of the philosophical aspects as well. So yeah, overall, I thought it was a really interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Enjoy the conversation.
Enjoy.
So joining us on the show today from Copenhagen, or at least dialing in from Copenhagen, we have Mark Edmondson. So Mark, firstly, a big welcome to the Measure Pod. Thanks for agreeing to join us. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for asking me. Yeah, very excited to talk about what I've been doing. Yeah, and I am British, in case you didn't know. I've got a sort of Nordic sounding name, so sometimes people don't. Now I've moved to Copenhagen. But yeah, I was born near London. And then I moved to Cornwall for sort of my growing up period. Went back to London for a physics degree, then went back down to Cornwall to think about what I wanted to do. And I ended up in a SEO agency, Neutralize, with Teddy Cow and Lucy and everyone. And that's what kind of really got me into sort of the internet. So it was my first real job and all this. And then I've basically just sort of taken what I feel like is the next logical step after that. So started off in SEO, building links for websites and things like that, which is, one of those jobs now that I think could completely be replaced by AI and all this. And then I ended up in Copenhagen because the agencies got kind of bought by different agencies, getting bigger and bigger as that happens. So I ended up at Guava in Copenhagen. Then Guava turned into NetBooster, who eventually got acquired by Artifact. And then basically I've just been in Copenhagen learning. Well, I came initially to learn Google Analytics because I wanted to measure my SEO stuff. And then from Google Analytics, that's my first introduction to BigQuery, because they used to have this sort of free export to BigQuery, which is very nice. And then from BigQuery, got into just the general cloud stuff, Google Cloud, and started doing some data science and got introduced to R as a way of doing data programming for forecasting and things like that, the data from digital analytics. So I did a lot of R, really got into R. R's really nice. And then got a few packages out for R for Google Cloud stuff and Google Analytics and things like that. And then I went more into the Google Cloud stuff with Debugging. I wrote a book as well. Correct. It's up there, the thing. But basically a book about when GA4 came out, a book about how to use the data in the Google Cloud and that kind of thing. And then this whole AI stuff started a couple of years ago. And I just wanted to be involved in that. So I started my own company to be an sort of AI DevOps company. And then I've just been working with clients implementing AI stuff, GenAI for various sectors. But sort of harking back with Gunnar from what we did, we're doing sort of digital analytics, AI crossover use case, this Tagassistant.ai. Yeah, but I mean, I would say summing up, my journey's been kind of always kind of looking for the next level above what I'm doing. So I definitely feel like AI and GenAI is kind of the level above Google, the cloud stuff that I've been doing, because you can use it to help create all the Google Cloud stuff, Terraform and all this coding. And then the Google Cloud stuff was kind of necessary to help with all the data science stuff. And then the data science stuff was necessary to sort of help with the Google Analytics stuff. Google Analytics stuff was to help with the SEO stuff. So, but all of those things like SEO, going all the way back to SEO is about search retrieval and things like that. And that is a really very helpful experience for the AI stuff, for instance, because that's all about information retrieval as well and things like this. So I really feel like I've got a really kind of good background to be where I am now. And I'm definitely having the most fun I've ever had professionally working on this, ever changing frontier that is AI at the moment. So, anyways, that was a very long answer to hello, how are you? Who are you?
No, it's a really great answer, really interesting. And it's funny, you make it almost sound like it's just the natural, because this is what you said. You said, it was a natural progression from one step to the next. And I don't disagree with you. And it very much mirrors what we've done at Measure Lab and part of our evolution as well. But you do make it sound very easy. Like, it was logical. I just went from SEO into Google Analytics to Google Cloud to AI.
Yeah. Hindsight though, isn't it? It's like all hindsight. But I mean, I definitely, I like to evolve myself and things. And it just seems like I start to get a bit bored maybe of what I'm doing at the time. And then I'm sort of looking around to see what comes up. And then serendipity presents a solution, I think. So that's what it feels like anyway. But yeah, I mean, I would have gone back to the UK, but I met my adorable wife, Sanna, in Denmark. So that's why I'm kind of based in Denmark. We've got a kid and all of that. Yeah. So, and I love Copenhagen. Copenhagen is, I lived in London for a while and, it's great. You can always do a lot of stuff, but it's very hectic. And Cornwall's a bit sleepy. So Copenhagen's a kind of nice
good
medium
mix
in between, I say. Yes. and very, very good quality of life. Yeah.
I've been once just to visit, but I loved it. I just thought, I know you don't really get under the skin of a place by just visiting once, but I just thought it was great. Everything about it really just seemed well organized, well run. Just a nice place, place to be.
Yeah. Yeah, the motorbikes, something else. Yeah, we're in a quite cool area in Copenhagen as well. We just moved here. So I'm part of the 8-bit shoot as well. So I actually worked with Simo at one of the agencies I mentioned, NetBooster. Simo was just sort of starting blogging about Google Tag Manager and stuff like this at the time. And he was just starting all that. That's how we know each other. And he's definitely supported me a lot in the stuff that I've been doing and all this. So now we're kind of working together in this 8-bit shoot sort of collective, which is the sort of, we call it the flock. And it's like basically a lot of very senior qualified people, but you don't want to, and they could very easily all kind of freelance on their own if they wanted to, and get contract. But just having that kind of backup of having a sort of single brand and helping with the sort of internal stuff and all that type of thing. It's a very interesting idea, I think, for how a consultancy can work and all of that as well. Yeah. So we joined that with Gunnar as well. He's just recently joined and they helped with this office and that kind of thing. So it's that kind of support we get, but we work sort of under that umbrella. Yeah. So it's kind of, we're all freelancers, but under an umbrella of that.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And we're gradually working our way through so we had Gunnar on, as you know, now you're joining us. So we'll have to get Simo on next and we'll gradually work our way through the full 8-bit team, through the full flock, I guess.
Oh, there's a lot more than that as well. Yeah. But yeah. All good. All very talented people. Yeah.
So just a definition straight off the bat. So you said AI DevOps, as part of your intro, or GenAI DevOps. What does that mean?
So I think basically when you're looking at AI and stuff, it's just so far reaching and broad. You can, it can do anything. I mean, it can turn, anything with text, language, vision, video, and all this. So I was just picked the thing that was right in front of my nose of what I was doing. And when I was working at DevOps team, I was doing Google Cloud implementations of DevOps. And DevOps is basically all the kind of plumbing and infrastructure for if you're running an application, and that could be a data application or a website or anything like that. So it's kind of, and I'm more the data end because that's kind of where I came from. So you think of BigQuery, obviously, using BigQuery is great, but then you've got to get the data in somehow. Yeah. So there's like all of that kind of operations and different services that you can have for that. And then like you've got to go out someplace as well. So sort of data pipelines that you start getting into. And the architecture, I really like getting the architecture and all this type of put together. So I was doing that a lot with the digital analytics use cases, so things like using PubSub and Google Tag Manager server side. We were one of the first people to do Google Tag Manager server side. We got a sort of use case up with IH Nordic. We got the first sort of use cases up for Google Tag Manager server side because we had that cloud component to our analytics stuff. Yeah. So we were doing a lot of stuff where we were pulling in data from GTM server side into PubSub, into BigQuery, and then pushing that downstream into web applications and things like that. And then I left IH Nordic because I wanted to broaden it out from digital analytics and just general like all stuff. And, every company has the kind of data pipelines for something, just not necessarily digital analytics. Digital analytics is very sort of messy volume data compared to some workflows, which are a lot more kind of, private, confidential and more secure and that kind of thing. So I just wanted the experience in that thing as well. So I was doing that and that was all good. And then the AI stuff all comes out and then it's like one of the biggest sort of first use cases everyone uses is RAG, retrieval augmented generation. And that's basically fetching data and then putting it into the prompt and then getting the AI to respond to that. So a lot easier in some cases than having to do a sort of machine learning feature list and all this type of thing. And that seemed to dovetail very nicely into what I've been doing right then. So I did a lot of RAG implementations of pulling in data from various data sources and putting it to the AI so that it's got more context for when it replies and it reduces hallucinations and makes it more relevant to what you're talking about and that kind of thing. So like before with data, And there's a lot of work. I mean, machine learning projects in general. I used to call myself a data scientist and a data, but I changed my name to a data engineer because actually, that's actually what you're doing a lot of the time. There's not a lot of science or modeling going on, and unless you're in a massive organization. A lot, 90% of the work is actually the plumbing.
Yeah.
The actual practical plumbing you're getting in there. I started calling myself a data engineer instead because that's what I was actually doing. And, almost every data scientist I spoke to, as well was like, actually, I'm sitting here doing BigQuery SQL rather than what I thought it would be, which is sort of, training models and that kind of thing. So I just sort of embraced the way it's going. But it's been very useful for the AI stuff. And then like the DevOps part of it is really, I don't know if you've read the Phoenix Project. That's sort of the best book to describe. But it's kind of this new, I'm on the tail end of it, so I haven't really done it any other way. But it's sort of, you can use the clouds to pull up computers and tear them back down again and don't need them. And that's how this whole kind of serverless stuff is running. In the olden days, they used to just have big still do, big infrastructure sort of running on their own systems and stuff. And you're a bit more sort of tied in, maybe more technical debt to sticking to that. Whereas the cloud is all about event-driven, zero cost until you need it, pulling up the servers when you need it, and that kind of thing. So, and that's a lot of stuff which I learned from Dev and Team days, Google Cloud. I've kind of been Google Cloud, Google. I've drunk the Kool-Aid of Google. I think mainly because I kind of started in SEO, and it was all about Google search and all this, and then moved to Google Analytics, BigQuery. I think BigQuery is still amazing compared to a lot of cloud solutions. So I've just been Google Cloud, and I've just kind of like concentrated on Google Cloud. I've kind of dabbled with Azure and AWS as well, but I just like Google Cloud in a way. And one thing, when I started my AI company, ChatGPT had just come out. And everyone was like going, I don't know if everyone remembers, they're going mental about it, like how amazing it was. And Google didn't really have a very good model as well. There, it was bad.
Bard.
It was Bard, exactly. Yeah. But I knew that they would eventually win the race, I think, because I knew all of the infrastructure stuff. Vertex AI platform and all this stuff, we're working on that. They've just got the complete stack. They've even got the TPUs, the GPUs, they created those. They're on the like 7th generation of those. And, all the papers that originated from Google, and OpenAI definitely kind of stole their thunder and all of this. But I think they were under a bit of an innovator's dilemma in what they were doing, because it would drastically change search, which is their sort of main money driver, right? Still, I don't know, 95% of the revenue or something is Google Ads. So I think they couldn't very easily, and now they've been pushed really, I think, to do that. But now I definitely think they are going to have the best model by the end of this year, no doubt. I think Gemini 3 is going to be, amazing. I think Gemini 2.5 is really good as well. But I think it's very good for us as consumers to have all these different kind of things pushing each other along on this. But I was sure that Google would be a big contender in it. And so I started a Google AI DevOps company from that belief. And I think that's been vindicated. Yeah.
Is that, just to clarify then, so what's the company's name again?
I call it Holosun. Yeah, after my first band. Yeah.
Right. Is that like a technology company then, or is that more of a consultancy utilizing the Google Vertex technology?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, it is. Well, the way I've never done a startup before, or anything like that. And I've never run a company before, but I also want to explore, like, in this post AI world, what is running a company like? Yeah, because it is different, I think. And everyone's kind of trying to, think about how to incorporate it into their existing companies. But what if you have a company where you're just basically AI driven from the very start? Like, what is that like? I mean, certainly you're going to employ less people at the end of it, so I definitely need less junior coders or anything like that in what I'm doing. And I just wanted to try it out, basically, to see how far you could get. And things like strategy and corporate strategy and things like that, it's been very helpful in that. I'm not taking it. I mean, there are people who's just going to let AI make all the decisions on this type of thing. But as a sort of sparring partner, that kind of thing, it's been very, very helpful in that respect. And so I just wanted to try that out. And I just figured that I was so certain that the AI stuff is going to be so important for every company in the next 10 years, whatever. If it all goes wrong, at least I'll have had 2 years experience of working on this 100% of the time. And I'm just so, I'm certain I can just walk into a job, with that experience now. But it's gone better than I expected.
I suppose you've been almost sitting on the crest of the wave, because I suppose when you first started out, like you said, you had like GPT 3.5, or you were working with Google, but then the models have continuously got better and better as companies progress.
Absolutely, yeah. Just surfing the wave, and it is a bit of a difference in that you can build something, but then the models are improving at such a rate that what you build could be completely redundant within 6 months. So
there's a graveyard of startups out there.
Let's all the talk to your PDF startups, completely useless now, because it's just a click box in the hyperscalers to do so. So it's really interesting, I think. And so that is a real tough decision to make. Like, do I kind of do this now, or do I just wait 6 months and then it's going to be kind of very, very easy to implement anyway? And that is a constant thing. And I think it really just boils down to your use case, and can you make, money from it now, or do you need it right now to do so? But it also encourages to be very, very flexible and to swap out things. I mean, I was using OpenAI a lot from the start because it was the best model, right? And I still do. But I need to have that flexibility of knowing that, okay, within 6 months, it might be Anthropic or Google or OpenAI, or maybe, a new Chinese startup sort of comes up and do that. So you definitely need that flexibility. And that's the kind of the DevOps philosophy as well, as having that flexibility, creating systems that are kind of useful enough, but you can swap out components as you need them as things evolve. But yeah, it's and another thing is, when you're making the applications themselves, sometimes you can make an application and that it's good, it's working, but then all you have to do is wait 6 months and the model underneath driving it is going to get better. And so your application with no code changes is going to get better just in itself, It's kind of, so a good example of that is sort of document extraction, which is a kind of very bread and butter use case for what's going on. And before, when I first started, I had a lot of code, like pulling out the text, chunking it up and all this type of thing. But then as the models got better and better, you could just send in the PDF directly to the API call, and it would do a good job of passing it out just using vision instead of text. Yeah. So a lot more, easier to work with and things like that. So that's one example. And then, Gemini 2 was okay. Would catch some, probably about 80% accuracy or something like that. But then you just change the 2.0 to 2.5, and then suddenly you've got 90% accuracy on the same data set. And, in 6 months' time, when I change it from 2.5 to 3, it's going to be 100% or something like that. So if you can build systems which can take advantage of that, then I think you're onto a good thing.
Were you worried? Because when you explained it there about when you started out, just as ChatGPT came out, and you really believed that Google was going to win the race in the end, you must have been a little nervous at times early on when Google was lagging behind. Did you contemplate changing, or were you just fully all in on, this is going to work, I'm going to stick with the Google?
Yeah, I think always the infrastructure was superior. So basically a lot of it was you got the Vertex, got the Google BigQuery, got PubSub, got all that type of stuff. That was always good. Cloud Run as well, amazing. So that was all working. And then, but using OpenAI and Anthropic basically for the models. So but it was you just need a model to kind of justify that Google is a thing. But honestly, everything else is good. So I could very well have carried on.
Anthropic was available in Vertex as well, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Because Google actually owns 10% of Anthropic.
Yeah.
So they've actually made a lot of money on them already. And they actually probably make more money hosting other people's models because you're paying them for that and for their own models. But I think it's more, they need to have their own model, to prove that they, I always was confident they would get there. But sure, I mean, OpenAI could always be a little bit in front, but we'll use them, no problem. Yeah.
How much of Google's model use within its applications, say search, workspace, are just lost leaders that they just put out there to keep their name in the AI?
Absolutely. I think there is a lot of that going on. And, that was a big worry at the start. Actually, we were very worried about token costs at the start. Yeah, I mean, they were a lot more expensive in those days, but still, cheap enough to do stuff. But we were talking to clients who were sort of calculating, okay, each user might use this many tokens. And so that means we're going to have to price it and all that. But what actually happened was prices dropped by 100 times or even 1,000 times and all this. There's a lot of consultancy in deciding where you are on the sort of intelligence cost speed sort of triangle there, because a lot of use cases, say for the summary of documents, things like that, you don't need the world leading model at all. In fact, it's more expensive and slower to do so. So you're better off sort of, going down the curve a little bit for a much cheaper, much faster solution. So there's a lot of consultancy in there to sort of pick out where you are and that kind of thing.
Everyone's knee-jerk reaction is just to go for the most expensive, isn't it? I want the
Exactly,
latest one. Yeah. Every task, no matter what it is.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think there's a lot of, guidance that can be given in that sense. And the thing, what is happening as well, though, is, as the bar rises on all these models, the use cases that people have is kind of static. So actually, we're getting to a stage where the leading models are too much for most use cases that people have. And, we are going to get to a stage where, I think Google has this sort of Google Ultra model that it hasn't even released. And Pro and Flash are basically distillations, which is this making models smaller and faster, but based on the bigger model. Maybe they're using Ultra model for their own internal uses instead. Maybe they're giving into the governments. Maybe they're answering the really, really big questions like, should we have a trade deal with this country, or should I merge with this company? Because those are the kind of questions that are kind of just, you need a lot of information. For most of our day-to-day cases where we're just summarize this document, there's no need for this market-leading thing. And
have you heard about this MIT report that has said 95% of GenAI pilots within companies aren't working? It's a bit, clickbaity type headline, but it does seem like it's I haven't dug into it, but if it's MIT, you'd think it's a reasonably well done study.
That's it. That was typical for machine learning projects in general, I think. From before that, machine learning projects were 90% of them fail or something like this. And it's a clickbaity title. It starts up a lot of discussion, but I think maybe the projects themselves fail in their KPIs that they sort of set themselves to that. But I'm pretty sure that still a lot of the employees are either, I think there's a sort of shadow IT thing going on where a lot of people on their phones are using sort of these AI solutions anyway, even if they're not using the corporate branded AI one, which is all of that. And there is definitely a huge privacy and security and social consequences of people doing that. We worry about GDPR and e-privacy with a cookie banner. People are sending in their deepest
life story,
internal thoughts and motivations to an American company who stated that they will give it to the FBI if they ask it, all that type of thing. So that is a massively more. And, in Denmark as well, we've also got this problem with Greenland at the moment, with the US, all this. And, so then you're sending all of this information to the US to do that. And we were worried about Ocean and Cambridge Analytica, influencing elections and stuff like that. That is just child's play compared to these AIs, which are very, very persuasive and very, very good at language and things like that. And that's why hallucinations is a problem, because they always sound so convincing when they're making them, aren't they? It's not, you can't kind of use your usual signals of it's spelt wrongly or all this type of thing. There's no sort of human signals to help with that. So that is and a big reason I've got involved in AI and all this is just to be more aware of these situations and more aware of what we can do to keep an eye on it. You know, my daughter is using these stuff and being influenced by AIs and things like that. And I think there's a massive change coming that people haven't really contemplated.
Do you think this kind of links back to a bit at the start of what we were talking about there, with that 95% use case and a lot of stuff being left on the table, and perhaps the fact that lighter models can do tasks as well as these more expensive models? Me and Dara have been talking about it recently, that it feels like there's already so much intelligence on the table that we can use and that people haven't figured out what to do with yet, that I don't know whether, with ChatGPT 5 kind of triggered this conversation of like, oh, are we beginning to plateau? Is it all over? Is the bubble going to burst? And our kind of thought was, even if that was true and this law of scalability wasn't really a law, it feels like there's just so much there and so much we haven't figured out with what we already have.
I agree completely. In fact, I mean, this isn't the first time they've thought, pre the sort of thinking models, they were sort of worried that it's plateauing and things like that. And it was a blessing. And we're like, okay, great. We can actually start building stuff. And we know that it's not going to be out of date very, very soon and things like this. And, but yeah, I'm convinced that, I think if model progress just froze right now and that's it, we still have 10 years of like actually applying the stuff that is possible to all the stuff that's going on. I mean, my wife works for Denmark, which is like a network rail in the UK, sort of takes care of the railways and that kind of thing. And they are very, very obviously cautious of using AI at all. I mean, I worry that I'm lagging behind. But I mean, when I'm sort of, I haven't done the latest thing that Silicon Valley is doing, all that. But I am like, years ahead of like probably mainstream Danish businesses. And then there's the sort of laggards after that who are going to take it on once it's been a proven technology and all this. There is years and years and years. I mean, you've looked at people implementations, I'm sure, and it's they're definitely not the cutting edge in a lot of cases. And from just from a data perspective, working with databases and stuff, there's still a lot of firms just using Excel for their database and that kind of thing, and not using the sort of most modern stuff. I think there's just so much work in that. But, it isn't, I don't think it will slow down at all.
Been looking to chuck my wife into the mix as well. She's a primary school teacher, and sometimes I'm sitting next to her. She's working God knows how many hours of a day to get planning done and marking done and lesson resources created. And I'm looking at what she's doing thinking, there's so much of this could be automated away and done so you could just quickly plan a lesson, quickly mark, using stuff like you described before, vision models and multimodality. The schools are so far behind and they don't have the budgets, and it's just so creaking and ancient in terms of the way it works. It feels like there's a long runway there.
And my wife is an ex-teacher as well. And we talk about that. She's doing a kind of educational thing in Denmark. And we talk about this a lot. Yeah, a massive, massive difference. I mean, and, we actually go to a few seminars and there was a very good talker there. We could have the perfect education bot right now, and it's 100% that, like, if you speak to this bot, you will learn everything and give it to your pupils. We could have that right now. We're probably pretty close. But we're still nowhere near having students able to use that to learn and to get better in their lives, because there's so much other stuff that happens in someone's life. I mean, remember that was the dream of like Coursera and things like that. I mean, everyone in the world has been able to learn everything pretty much for the last 20 years, because of the internet and stuff. And Coursera was sort of one of those things. But the sort of dream of it was like, sub-Saharan Africa would be able to sort of skill up and, join the sort of revolution and all this. But the main users of that is still Western American sort of users and things like that, not the they're concerned about a lot of other stuff that's going on, and they don't have time to sit there and look at a computer and that kind of thing. There's a lot of other social issues that need to sort of be sorted out first. So, again, to your point, like, it's just going to take so long for the full benefits of it. And I worry that it's going to be very, very uneven. It's the people who are kind of ahead now who are going to get more and more accelerated in what's going on, whereas the people who are not sort of able to even access that is going to be, that's a worrying thing, I think, in that respect.
That's often, sadly, the way it works, isn't it? There's not a huge amount of this, but I have seen a little bit where it's kind of presented as this, leveler. So it's going to give everybody a level playing field. But I think you're right. It doesn't work that way. The people who already have the advantage use it to gain a further advantage. So I don't think it's going to be this leveling technology, at least not in the near term.
I mean, I'm concerned my career couldn't happen now, basically, because I was a junior and I was learning from other seniors and stuff like that. But now now I don't need juniors because I've got kind of 200 juniors that I could program, set off to do stuff. So there isn't that kind of path for people to kind of learn stuff from senior people. And I think we were already seeing the trends of that. I saw some job statistics the other day that senior job positions are increasing, but junior ones are going down simply because the seniors can now, AI is attributed to some of that. So that is, and it is ridiculous. Like, for some of my projects, my problem now is not production. I'm overproducing, actually. I'm releasing so many new features because I can literally have Claude kind of work on a feature whilst I'm on the bus, and I'm just sort of directing it and be like, do this. And then I'll have one over here. I've got another one at home. And I'm just producing so many features that it's actually too much for the people who are receiving the application to do. And they're now my actual bottleneck is onboarding people to the new features and training them how to do it and all that kind of more softer skills sort of around it, rather than the actual hard sort of, which used to be the bottleneck of coding and creating all of this type of thing. So that is an interesting thing as well, but I definitely feel a much more prone to burnout when you've got that high productivity that you're getting from that, because there's actually, when you're doing kind of donkey work, where you've sort of made all the thoughts about what it needs to do, and now you just have to implement it. So maybe copy pasting, moving things over, but that is a bit of a rest for the brain as well. Yeah. So you are kind of like, okay, I'm being paid still for this, and I don't have to make a lot of decisions. You do that. But now if you replace that with AI, so that's all just done, then you have to do these decisions a lot more frequently, like a lot more. Okay, this is how this is, and there's a lot less kind of breaks in between just doing stuff.
That's interesting. I've not heard that angle before, because we often talk about the idea of get rid of the grunt work, just free yourself up for creativity and big thinking. But I've never thought about it as like, well, if that's all, it's exhausting.
Yeah, it's exhausting. Yes, definitely. I definitely have experience. And another interesting thing, and this is a culture thing, is like, if we can work twice as more productive, does that mean that we can now work half the time? Yeah. Or does that mean that the expectation is now that we produce twice the amount that we did before? And definitely from my perspective, I have worked more and more and more and more, because I'm like, oh my God, I can produce like 10 times the amount of stuff. I mean, I think it's literally 10 times the amount of code from 3 years ago, say. I mean, it's ridiculous. And
you've got that new expectation. You set new expectation.
But now it's new expectation. And then I'm like, okay, and now I'm going to work 12 hours because the multiplier of that is so great that now I've suddenly got all of this, and you're in a flow state a lot more as well, because you're not sort of, it's this idea. So that is an interesting thing that I've had to sort of give myself a bit of boundaries on when I'm doing this, because it gets a bit exhausting.
Because now you can produce tenfold what you could in an hour previously, then every hour you're not working, your potential will be 10 times the work on the table. So
the cost is greater.
I'll just do another hour, and I'll just do another hour.
Yeah. So it's like you're in the old mode still of like how you value work, but like work is a lot cheaper in what you're producing. And I think that will play out a lot in how this is going out. Yeah, so interesting. I think.
Do you think there's another potential problem? So you said there that you don't know that you would be able to have your career if you were starting out now. So
Yeah.
if there's this increase in senior job roles and a decrease in junior roles, how does someone of the next generation become, because you can't just jump to a senior, can you? You need that experience, because it's not just about technical skills. It's also, you learn those softer skills by working for years and years and years. So how's the next generation?
Just the seniors hand over to the AIs.
Maybe.
I think it is education, going back to the teachers and stuff, like changing the way of teaching so that it's more kind of, so I speak, I do have some juniors around, and they're not lateral thinking enough. You're given a task and then it doesn't happen, then they just stop if they couldn't do it the way that they thought. And there's not this sort of, okay, well, I'll try this other way, or try this other way, that kind of thing, or collaborate or something like that. So I think if we're teaching people in school that you just need to complete this task, this task, this task, and then you're a good producer for the society and things like that, then that is maybe not the right way when those tasks can be completely automated. And maybe there's a kind of a different education that is needed. I'm not sure what, I'm not an educator in that sense, but it's just some to stress skills about how to do that direction and how to have the confidence to sort of look around. I mean, one thing I noticed when a lot of debate about AI stopping you thinking, like AI is taking away all your thinking. But I would say I've learned so much from having this teacher who is teaching me all this code. I mean, I would say I'm a full stack engineer now. It's definitely taught me Terraform. It's definitely taught me React, front end stuff, mostly through example, because it's done it first and then I've kind of done it. The thing is with the seniors is that you know what good looks like. And that is very, very necessary at the moment when you're doing this stuff, because otherwise the less it's outside of your realm, the more you have no idea if what it's saying is right or wrong.
Yeah.
And you can't kind of trust it 100%.
Saw a post the other day with, it was just loads of LinkedIn profile pictures and profile banners that all said vibe code cleanup specialist. And there was sort of 20 of these senior coders who had turned their hand to just going in and cleaning up generated code.
I can definitely understand that. Yeah. There is definitely technique at the moment. It's very good for very small projects, but as soon as it kind of gets to a stage where you need to keep the overall picture, it starts to lose it now. So that's and you get to spaghetti code situations and stuff like that. But then as a senior person, you know that you should be using version control like Git, and you should be having kind of test dev prod. I saw another post where someone asked the AI to change something and it deleted its production database, because he didn't know that you shouldn't keep your development code next to your production and all this type of thing. But that's all stuff you could learn, it would tell you if you asked it. So I think people approaching it like it's just a way of stopping me thinking. I mean, that is the danger. But I think if you approach it like, teach me how to do this and do it yourself, but teach me by example. I think that is a more senior data set in that sense. You're always learning, right? And you always are doing that. So perhaps juniors, they definitely need to be using it for a start. I definitely would say you have to, but use it to sort of teach you practical experience. Don't kind of make a PowerPoint, make the app itself, a PowerPoint describing what you want. Actually make it with the aid of AI and think that. And at least as a prototype, and then you can sort of take that on and things like that. But use it as a teaching aid. And I think that some of the companies are recognizing that. They are actually releasing specialized learning models as well. Ones that won't just give you the answer, but will sort of try and walk you through how it got to the answer and things like that, which is very exciting. I think that could be very good for education in general.
So moving things in a slightly different direction, you're working on something with Gunnar, who's been on the show recently. Are you happy to tell us a little bit about that? Because that is using your kind of newer GenAI DevOps skill set, but applying it a little bit back to your old world of kind of digital marketing and analytics.
Yes. Well, I mean, we're working in the same office, which is really nice. So we can kind of chatting about these things anyway. And MCP is a kind of, the latest acronym to hit the AI world, but it sort of eases up integrations between services. And then, I was just going away for summer. So we put up a poll on LinkedIn just to see and kind of describing if we made this, would people be interested in paying for it and doing this? And we got some very good responses, like I think over 100 people said, yes, they would. So when I came back, I was just out of a contract as well. So I had some spare time. So I started thinking we should take Gunnar's initial MCP plan and deploy it on the multi-vac data services, as I call it, and sort of, put that forward and apply some of the learnings. I did the front end, for example, which I wouldn't have been able to do 2 years ago. So the front end's been done with the AI. But then also it's, the AI is good at tasks where there's quite similar tasks, but then they're slightly different enough that you can't kind of automate it using traditional methods. And I think like an analytics setup is a pretty good example of that, because there's slightly different website stuff and you can kind of, as the sort of the tracking modifications based on that. So we're going to launch very soon. We've got it working all internally at the moment. And for that, I want to explore a new UX when you're interacting with AI stuff. So at the moment, a lot of people are familiar with the chat box. You put in a question and out comes an answer, and that's all kind of unstructured text in, unstructured text out. But I had a website before where I thought, I don't need a website. I'll just have a chatbot and then I'll have all the information and then people could just ask what they wanted. And no one asked anything, right? Because it's just too much. It's too intimidating to have just a blank box where you can ask anything. You can put up little suggestions about what to ask, which is what some people do and things like that. But it's not something my mum would use. I think it's my sort of acid test of doing stuff. And websites are good in that they do give you limited good choices, like click here, and you get kind of an outcome and all that. So I wanted to take these two ideas of having an AI creating the website in its sense, but we're sort of inputting structured information from the user, which is kind of them telling what URL they want to do, what goals they want to have on the website and all that kind of thing. And not in free text, but in sort of a website form, basically. And then that goes to the AI. The AI does its magic and then outputs structured text outward again. And then that structured object, is then outputted in a sort of nice, attractive UI. So the website, when it's launched, will basically it's kind of like a conversation, but instead of like you just writing a text, it's you kind of inputting your information about what you want to scan on your website, or what Google Analytics or GTM configurations you want to do. And then the reply is not text, but a sort of a UI display on that. So it's trying to get a sort of, structured way of talking to you. I don't know if it'll work, but it's good to try.
Interesting. Yeah. Because I think because you're right. It's like there's kind of like baked in idea that that's how we, that people have this preconceived idea about how you should interact with something. And I think with the AI, the kind of models and the capabilities of those models are probably telling us is that actually we need to rethink, because in the future, we're not even going to be typing on a box in front of us or on our little, mobile phone in our hand. So it's interesting what you're doing, I think, to rethink, it doesn't have to be the standard, either a text box or a UI. It could be some kind of mixture between the two.
And it's kind of inspired by work I've done for a partner, which is, I think we were they're in the green energy and infrastructure business. And we're describing contracts, very long contracts in various different languages and stuff. And we just added a phrase of, you can use some images if you want to sort of help describe what you're doing. And it turns out like SVG images, it's just code actually. So the models are really, really good at outputting code, and they can output really, really nice SVG images, which are very nice looking. And so, just adding this sort of instruction, you can use SVG if you want to sort of help in your answers. It then started answering in text, but also creating this really rich, unique image every time it was kind of replying to help illustrate what it was talking about. And so that kind of got me down the road of, oh, wow, yeah, don't have to just have text. You can sort of really sort of look at all these other options of how to interact with it. But I think the sort of chat box stuff is like, we're in the sort of terminal stage of coding, and that's going to evolve. And I'm not a designer, so, I don't know how it's going to go. And I'm really looking forward to that's one of I really look forward to how everyone sort of evolves. I think basically it's the UI and the data that is the sort of unique things that you need if you're going to create an AI app yourself. Otherwise, if you're only just a wrapper on top of the model, then that's the PDF. Talk to your PDF people, basically. You're very, very, the moat is not very large, but you've got a good UI. And I think that's why the good startups such as Cursor and things like that are doing so well, is that they have the really good UI for coders. They've sort of cracked that. So, but that's just for coders. So and there's a lot of startups we want to be the Cursor for lawyers. We want to be the Cursor for doctors, all this stuff. And that's a UI question, really. With the same model underneath, but it'll be how it makes it sort of familiar. And probably not too flashy, it probably look a bit boring, but easy enough for people to sort of use quickly and that kind of thing. So we're aiming for the Tagassistant.ai thing is basically sort of in-house marketers who are they know a little bit about you, but not like, everything. And so they want to sort of have kind of intelligent recommendations about what they should do, and then do sort of scheduled scans, sort of auditing their website and that kind of thing. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how it is.
And going back to something you said earlier, and this is something we think a lot about as well, is that, these tools, this technology, it can be a bit of a double-edged sword. It's providing people with a way to do something that they don't need the hard skills to do, but that comes with a risk. So with Tag Assistant, just as an example, is there a risk that somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing asks it to do a bunch of stuff and then it goes away and it does it, but it turns out to not be what they really needed?
Well, yeah.
I guess there always is. Yeah, true.
But the way we're doing it is we're adding sort of these sensible, we hope, templates to it. So if you've got a blog, then you probably want these events tracked. If you've got an e-com, these events should be tracked. But then if you kind of pay money, then you're going to have a bit more control about exactly what things can happen. But yeah, we're going to get people to use it and see. But we're certainly not going to. But we're certainly not going to. We're going to make sure we don't make changes to people's GA and GTM accounts and things like that without sort of a safeguard. But yeah, if people kind of push yes, and don't think, then that is a danger with every tool out there, I guess. But yeah, it'd be interesting. We might be able to intercept very, very bad decisions in that. One thing I've noticed with AI applications I have now is that once someone knows it can do something, then the confidence in that model gets greater and greater, and they start asking you to do more and more unreasonable things. And then when you're looking at it in the log, and this is good, and then they're asking it to do something like, they upload like a gigabyte file and say, please, give me all these different things. It just crashes, they just get more and more confident in the AI that you can do stuff. And then this is rubbish. And I thought, what? It's done all this stuff. And now it's not doing this extreme use case in the end.
The speed with which people become complacent and annoyed with technology.
Oh God. They're like, yes. Oh God.
Rubbish.
Yeah.
I've got a bit of an existential crisis question then, based on sort of what you're building, and presumably what a lot of other people are building in a multitude of other domains, because it feels like domain expertise and going deep on domain applications of AI is the future. But like we've already talked about in this podcast, building tooling on top of AI that is ripe for just being done by OpenAI or done by Google and just flattened like PDF readers is probably not the way to go. It strikes me that, say, with something like Tagassistant.ai or other tools of that ilk, the points at which a question would have triggered in some in-house person's mind to go, I need to go and ask advice for this from a consultant. I need to go and get advice here, or I need to go and interact with some other outside party to get expertise. Those trigger points are going to reduce further and further and further, and the point at which expertise is needed is going to get pushed further and further into the complex. Do you agree?
I do.
How
I
do you
do.
play
I
that
do.
on consultancy? And things
Yeah,
like that?
yeah. I mean, definitely consultancy. I've been a consultant, all my life and all my professional life. And definitely, I think it's a very at-risk industry as a whole, and not just digital analytics, but, McKinsey's is in the news about, being worried about being completely replaced. Gartner is being worried because you can produce a Gartner report soon with just, all this type of thing. So the business model of you have experience and knowledge that he's kind of specialized, and then access to that knowledge is monetizable, maybe. That is definitely something you even need to keep ahead of what is in the models. So maybe keep new things. I mean, definitely like the newest stuff. I'm just thinking about, say, the ADK network from Google is definitely not able to be returned reliably when you kind of ask an AI about it, because it's just come out. There's still some best practices. So keeping it, and that is, I think, part of a consultant's job, is to sort of keep up to date with the modern things. I mean, when we were consultants anyway, we always enjoyed having a very knowledgeable client, because that meant that you worked on more exciting projects, actually, right? And you could charge, maybe more money or something like that as well. But then there's that sort of bread and butter, sort of low hanging fruit type stuff. And I think that is that bar is going to rise. I mean, it has been rising. I mean, I remember when I started in SEO, we used to have to go in and say, SEO is, you really should do SEO because it's, going to bring in lots of traffic. And then by the end of it, it was like, then you had to just distinguish yourself from all the other SEO agencies out there, because everyone kind of took it for granted that SEO was sort of thing. And I think that, so you have this sort of upgrading bar anyway. I think that's just increased in speed on what's going on. And so, for analytics stuff, I mean, even when GA4 came in, there was a lot of stuff that came out of the box that wasn't in universal analytics, like video tracking, I think, or something like that. But that meant that you can work on sort of the more advanced use case. So I think that's what consultants need to do, is sort of keep ahead, because everyone's got access to the AI as well, right? So that means that, and in an expert's hands, that is much more powerful than a layman's hand that we were just talking about. So you'll be able to ask the sort of more advanced sort of questions to get to kind of the more advanced use cases.
With the experts building the tools.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we're not going for the absolute extreme end. Definitely, we're just going for the sort of low hanging fruit, certainly at the start and things like that. And we're actually going to have, if it acknowledges that it doesn't know what to do it, then we're going to have an email say, you can get in contact with us and, put you in touch with a human. So it's, just as a lead generation device, it's going to be pretty cool, just for like 8-bit seek, and we can put it to the network and things like that. I mean, I got out of consultancy because to do this AI thing, really. I mean, I do support now, I guess, on the projects I do. Yeah.
I ask this question every time. And again, we've had a few of these AI chats recently with various people. So we kind of tackled this question all the way through, but a little bit more pie in the sky, blue sky, next 3 years. Where do you see things going? What do you see the big changes and the big shifts over the next sort of 3 years?
I think definitely Google will have Gemini 3 and be very, very, very strong in their model department. But OpenAI is opening up all of these huge data centers and things like that. I think we're going to get into a lot of energy discussions, because these data centers are taking up so much energy, and it's kind of happened at the same time as solar is getting really huge as well, and all that kind of thing. I'm worried that there's going to be a confrontation in Taiwan, because Taiwan creates all of the chips for like everyone. And that could become a geopolitical issue even more than what they are already in this US-China kind of standoff over AI and everything. Conversely, the kind of restrictions they put on China has kind of helped them innovate in making sort of cheap models that are performant, like DeepSeek. So that's in show. That is a very interesting thing to keep an eye on. I think we underestimate the long-term impacts of AI, but maybe overestimate the short-term ones. So it will gradually start bleeding into more and more of the workflows and stuff, but we'll see sort of continued trends of juniors being, harder to work and do that. We should hopefully start to see the productivity gains sort of actually kicking in. I think last year was a lot about people planning to do it. This year was people doing it, using AI and improving stuff. Yes, maybe 95% of them failed, but that does imply 5% did at least. I think it's a lot more than that in a general kind of ambient way of people, making decisions on their phone, just chatting to a bot and that kind of thing. So I think we hopefully should start to see some economic data helping, show that all these payoffs are starting to come. I mean, it does feel like a bubble though, in that trillions and trillions of dollars that are putting into stuff. So we're going to see some consolidation, I think, in that respect. I think it's only going to be 3 or 4 main players that are going to have models, and the rest of them are all going to get bought. Maybe Apple will sort of make a purchase and all their stuff. I'm looking forward to just doing more application, creating more applications and seeing the impact of them now. I think, if we built them, now I want to see the impact of them and definitely, I can never go back. I don't think I could work without it now. I mean, you'll be like having a bath with your boots on or something. I mean, it would just like
be worse.
It just would be really, just feel like sludge, it's so slow and stuff. So
we're just wandering through the streets, not knowing where to go, staring into space.
Yeah. But I hope all the geopolitical stuff kind of calms down. I think there's a lot of things about a zero-sum game at the moment, in that there's a sort of limited amount of money, and so you have to take away from one group to give to another and that kind of thing. But if we do see the productivity gains that, I don't believe in this sort of AGI stuff that they were going to have lit people and data centers and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think we should see good economic gains once all of these sort of kick in. I mean, certainly from my point of view, I feel like I'm 10 times more productive, as I just said. And I can't see how that can not be, even at a minor, if it's not as extreme as what I'm doing, it can't not translate into sort of economic benefits somewhere. But definitely I want to sort of keep in the game. And, just interested in what happens next.
Mark, this has been really interesting. Really enjoyed it. Thank you again for joining us and talking with us.
Well,
today.
thank you very much.
That's it for this week's episode of the Measure Pod. We hope you enjoyed it and picked up something useful along the way. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on so you don't miss future episodes.
And if you're enjoying the show, we'd really appreciate it if you left us a quick review. It really helps more people discover the pod and keeps us motivated to bring back more. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.